Hello and welcome to the Impact Masterclass, Communication for Increasing Research Impact. My name is Tanya Ha, and together with my colleagues Caroline Pidcock and Dominique Hess, we will be taking you through this course. The Masterclass has been commissioned by the International Energy Agency Energy in Buildings and Communities Technology Collaboration Program Steering Committee. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that the Impact Masterclass was developed on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, the lands of the Gringai people, and the lands of the Ngunnawal and Ngambri people. We acknowledge the traditional ownership and the traditional knowledge of these people, Indigenous Australians, who have lived in this country and practiced 60,000 years of continuous culture.
I'm Suzanne Lavender, and I'm the co-chair of the EBC's Communications Committee. I represent Australia, and I work in a government policy role to improve sustainability in the built environment. This course is really important. My job as a policymaker is to help elected representatives make decisions which help people and the planet. I interpret evidence, present options to deliver government priorities, and implement government decisions. My job is to make energy work for buildings and communities. But I'm not an engineer or a scientist. I rely on operating agents, subtask leaders, and experts like you to give me a good foundation on what the evidence says, what a viable policy looks like, and the nature of the benefits and the risks. Like you, I work in a complex and specialized discipline, interpreting evidence and coming to conclusions. But political science is very different from the research that is done in the research annexes. We need to make the most of our specializations so we are better able to make real change. To carry out our core function, we need decision makers in government to act on annex findings and recommendations. But getting their attention and commitment is not easy. Decision makers are time poor. They're unlikely to have a technical background, and they definitely do not read long technical reports. Yet these have been our usual annex outputs. We need more than this. We need short, sharp, focused outputs to make decision makers pay attention. To be effective experts, we need to communicate better. This is what the Impact Masterclass will help us do. These easy-to-follow training modules will help project leads and researchers identify their audience and translate their research and key findings into targeted and effective forms of communication. They will help us navigate the grey area between research and policy. It is my hope that they will catalyse the translation of the EBC's cutting-edge collaborative research into real-world impact.
Thank you, Suzanne, and welcome to Module 0, the Introduction, where we will introduce you to the course, the different modules that you will be able to do online, the different resources, the templates, writing guides, and other resources that together form the Impact Masterclass course. I mentioned earlier that my name is Tanya Ha, introducing myself in a bit more detail. I'm a science communicator by trade. I originally did an undergraduate degree in science, majoring in chemistry, and I also have a Master of Environment from the University of Melbourne. I've spent many years working in science communication. My sweet spot is finding how different stakeholders from academia, research, science, government, industry, media, the broader public can come together around a common goal to make sure that the information that is needed to make informed choices and the evidence that is needed for action gets to the right places. I'm currently Director of Engagement at Science in Public, a science communication agency based in Melbourne, where we work with scientists to make sure that they can turn their life's work into a headline and 2 paragraphs that are appealing for general audiences. I have also worked extensively in the environmental field and have a special interest in the built environment. I have served on government boards, including Sustainability Victoria and one of the state water authorities. So I bring a governance and government policy background to my communication work as well. Here is an overview of Module 0. In this, we will cover who developed the masterclass, so that is myself and my colleagues Dominique and Caroline. We will explain why you should do this course. We will look at the challenge of getting the attention of different audiences and look at the solutions, which are understanding audience needs. We will also introduce the tools, the resources and masterclass that we've developed for you, which includes things like a policy brief and executive summary, writing guide, and we'll also introduce the masterclass itself, the slides that you can go through, the guides, the templates, examples and activities. And we'll also give you some next steps, things that you can do to progress your communication work further. The Impact Masterclass has been developed by Alchemy Collab. We are a collaboration of science communicators, researchers and practitioners who all have an interest in building sustainability and the built environment. I personally, as well as my background within science communication, I have worked as an environmental journalist. I have written books, articles and presented television shows, so I have first-hand experience of knowing what makes the media tick and understanding how to take complex scientific information and making it accessible for general audiences. I'm very familiar with social media as well and also understand what journalists are looking for in stories. It's my role to hone these communication skills and help you, the researchers, turn your work into information that is accessible to many audiences. I'm joined by Caroline Pidcock. She is our resident architect and has many years working as a practitioner in the built environment and architecture fields. She's also served on many boards within this area. And also Dr. Dominique Hess is the third member of our collaboration. She has a background in architecture, building research and teaching, and the role that she brings is to provide that teaching and curriculum expertise to help you learn the things that we are communicating through this Impact Masterclass. They will each introduce themselves in more detail when they present different modules later in this course. The IEA Energy in Buildings and Communities program has been encouraging annexes to think about their work in terms of theory of change, looking at their research as a means of solving problems by applying certain inputs to create outputs that deliver outcomes and impact into broader society. This is the big picture of designing your work through your annex and thinking about how it can turn into action. Put simply, communication enables the theory of change to happen, which is why this communication masterclass has been developed. The masterclass aims to increase the impact of annex research, to provide a strategic approach for different audiences, to support researchers with tools and information that will help you with your communication, to support researchers to effectively reach and support policymakers. It provides practical guides and templates as tools that you can apply to communicate your research outcomes. It provides useful hints and tips to increase your reach. And it is supported with agile participation through self-directed training. You can do this learning in your own time or in workshop groups. So what's the challenge? Why are we doing this masterclass? Why do we need to understand how to get the attention of the audience? When you are framing the research for your particular annex, when you're leading that research, one of the critical things is to understand the audience for whom you're doing the research, as well as the audience who could take up that research and implement it through policy change. So here you are, you're the researcher. You may have a particular solution to embodied carbon and be ready to solve the world's problems with a solution, and you want to get it to the decision maker. But that decision maker might be a politician who also has commitments to do something about water, waste, air quality, nature, as well as carbon, and they also have an election coming. Ideally, you would be influencing that decision maker to take up your recommendations. To do so, you have to go through a policymaker who receives communication, including policy recommendations, reports, public opinion surveys, and a host of other information before it is filtered, collated, and summarised, and possibly passed on to the decision maker. So the policymaker has to think about the decision maker. They know that there is a government commitment to act on embodied carbon, but they don't have a background in this area. They have other issues they are working on, and they also know their decision maker has no space in their diary for the next 2 weeks. So you really need to provide them with a compelling solution that can be implemented in practical terms that they can understand and can bring to their decision maker. They need some logical, actionable things that they can bring very clearly to their superiors. So this is the situation your research is coming into. And this is a problem because sometimes what you need to produce as a researcher to create decisions is different to what the policymaker is looking for. And that is what this course is here to help with. On to the solution, what your audience needs. So now you know a bit about the relationship between the policymaker and the ultimate decision maker who can turn your research into action. What works for this audience? A policymaker will best respond to a short document. Aim for 2 pages. Remember, they are busy. You can provide links to further information if they need more. A short document that starts with key findings and recommendations. Give them the actionable items up front. A short title that speaks to the key opportunity that tells them why they should read it and why it's urgent or important. Text and language that speaks specifically to the decision maker. You do need to keep them in mind. This masterclass is complemented by a set of tools to help build documents that are aimed at these policymakers. This includes templates, guides, example policy briefs, and example executive summaries. The examples and case studies that we've developed or referred to do come from Australia, as myself and my colleagues from Alchemy Collab are based in Australia. So we know the stakeholders, players and policies and the political context in which these case studies exist. However, we've chosen them because there are things you can learn from them and apply to your own country, state or region. We will now take a quick look at the tools and resources, the templates, the guides, and masterclass learning modules that you'll come across as you do this course. There are 2 key documents that we will cover in this course. These are the documents that you will most often use to inform policy making. The first is a policy brief. A policy brief should provide recommendations to a non-academic audience. It should be focused and specific. It should include actionable policy options based on the evidence that comes from your research. A policy brief is not a summary of the research. It is an interpretation of that research to turn into policy that can be actioned. The second type is an executive summary. An executive summary should convey the state of knowledge to a non-academic audience. It should summarise the relevant evidence-based research. In short, it provides a summary, a statement of the state of the knowledge on that subject matter area. It is bigger picture and it does not necessarily have to be localised to a specific area. It's about information rather than application. An executive summary includes key findings of the research and it states why this is important. It can either be a short standalone document if it focuses on a specific area of knowledge, or it could be the first couple of pages of a larger, more detailed report. The next few slides are going to give you an introduction and an overview of the masterclass and its different elements. These are the key elements of the masterclass program. There are 3 core learning modules. Module 0, that's the introductory module, the one that you're looking at now. That sets the scene and gives you some foundational information that will help you put this masterclass program to best use. Module 1 looks at the foundations of communication. It starts with understanding your audience and understanding your stakeholders. Then Module 2 looks at the templates and the guides that introduce you to writing for these audiences and show you how to use these resources step by step. We also include 3 sample documents that show how these learnings are applied for 3 real-world annexes. Then there are 3 specialised shorter modules which delve more deeply in particular subjects. Module 3 looks at government and industry. Module 4 explores communicating with the broader public and media. And Module 5 explores strategic social media and how you can use that to build awareness of your research and your policy recommendations, and also to build your profile as a researcher. Then there's a suite of resources that complement the learning modules. We have writing guides and templates and other resources that will help you put these learnings to use, and also a workbook that contains the activity sheets and the learning checklists that are part of this course. Taking a closer look at the writing guides and templates, these aids have been developed to assist operating agents and subtask leaders and their research colleagues maximise the impact of the work of the IEA Energy in Buildings and Communities Annexes on climate change and urban policy. The 5 resource documents are a policy brief writing guide, and to complement that, there's a policy brief template where you can put those learnings into a document that you can prepare for your target audiences. There is also an executive summary writing guide for operating agents, and consequently an executive summary template that applies that. There's also a 5th document, Communication Insights and Useful Resources for Operating Agents. This is useful, handy communication tips and tricks and resources that will help with your communication further. All of these together are complementary documents to the technical report, news article, and fact sheet writing guidance that you have in the Management Guidelines for Operating Agents, which was published in August 2020. And this is what they look like. The writing guides have guidance on what to write, what to include, what not to include, things to think about as you decide what to put into your document, and an estimate of how long these different sections should be, a rough word length for you to aim for. Then there are templates. These are Word documents that show you where to put that particular information, where you might insert images, and it also provides some styles, different font colors, sizes, and image specifications so that you can make sure that your writing matches the IEA EBC style guide. Now, I will mention that if you have been given certain styles or templates by a policymaker that they want you to write to, give them what they want. If you've been given these specifications, use them. Finally, we provide some samples that show how we've applied these learnings to Annex 72, Annex 80 and Annex 82, so that you can see some real-world examples of how we are writing for a general audience, drawing on the evidence base that researchers have produced. Looking more closely at the content of the recorded modules, in those we will dive into the content and the theory of communicating in different areas. So for example, we'll take a deep dive into the world of social media so that you can understand this different arena and what works and what doesn't work, and get to know it. There will also be case studies. Some are from within the built environment field, some are from outside it, but have insights that you'll be able to apply to your research area. We also have activities that allow you to take the things that we're teaching and to apply them to your specific annex and your research field. There are also samples of executive summaries and policy briefs that apply the things that we are teaching, so that you can see what we mean when we encourage you to do different things. There's real-world examples that show this teaching applied. And finally, there are resources that provide best practice communication insights that will help you communicate clearly and effectively with your target audiences. The Impact Masterclass includes its own workbook. This is a place that provides a guide to the content. It's where you can check off each model as you go through it and the related actions that are involved. It's also a place for reflection where you can write down your thoughts or learnings as you go through the program. It's a place for planning your application of what you learn, and a place where activity sheets are located to help with running activities and recording the results, particularly if you're doing this as part of a group workshop. Activities are the 5th element of the Impact Masterclass. They aim to support the development of strategy, language and tone, and they provide step-by-step tools to understand the audience. These activities are an important part of the educational experience. You can listen and hear, but by doing you'll learn and you'll know better how to apply what you've learned. Now that's the end of Module 0. The next step is to do Modules 1 and 2, the core modules. Module 1 will explore audience and strategy and will give you the tools to support creating your own stakeholder map. There's also a video that will help you to understand policymakers and what they're looking for, and there's activities for you to complete. This will provide you with a stakeholder map and analysis, which will help you to strategically apply the work of your annex. Module 2 looks at filling out the templates, and then finally there's the specialised short modules. Finally, a note of encouragement for you to do this course and encourage your colleagues to. We need your evidence to produce evidence-based policy, and there's no doubt that we are living in challenging times. We are living in a climate change emergency. So do encourage your colleagues to take their work to the people who can turn it into action. The Impact Masterclass was developed by Alchemy Collab, a team of experts in science communication, education, and the built environment. The team includes myself, Tanya Ha. I'm a science communicator from Science in Public. There's also Caroline Pidcock, an architect and director of the Alchemy Collab. And finally, Dr. Dominique Hess, an academic, author, and policy advisor. Here are our contact details.